Hey, we're back again. It's the Atlantic Discuss channel, State of the Nation. Every Friday, we don't miss it. Yes, and you know what? We always talk about the country with the largest concentration of black people on the face of the earth. Your guess is as good as mine. Federal Republic of Nigeria. Plenty happening. Rudderless, they say. Rudderless, I will agree. Nothing looks too good. But then, I mean, the political landscape is evolving fast. So many things are happening, especially amongst the political parties. That's why today I brought you another very erudite scholar, vibrant, young, consistent politician, his name is Demola Olarewaju. Demola Olarewaju, welcome to State of the Nation on Atlanta Discuss.
Thanks so much, Edmond. The pleasure
I'm
is
sure most of
entirely
you.
mine.
Yeah, go ahead. You
The
were
pleasure
saying
is
something.
entirely mine. Tell me the pleasure. I said the pleasure is entirely mine to be
Oh,
in
okay,
this conversation
fantastic.
with you.
Yeah, some of you will know him. He has always been a PDP man, the most consistent one I know, actually. When everybody seems to be jumping ship, Demola is a creative writer, political analyst, he study humanities, is always consistent. You can look on his Twitter page, Demola Olarewaju, at Demola Olarewaju, fantastic, very erudite. I mean, he's one of those people that really deserve that word, but today, it's going to be very detailed because there's so much to talk about. He's always been special. He has also been special assistant to His Excellency Atiku Abubakar on digital media strategy, etc. So I mean, and he's very involved. He's one-on-one with so many of the people working on the coalition. So we're going to go for the jugular. And Demola, my first question to you is: do we have a coalition? Do we have one?
Well, without
I know you've been busy.
you decided to start from the
delay is dangerous. Let's go for the jugular. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, well, I mean, without attempting to jump the gun, I would say that I'm very optimistic that we do have a coalition. How broad that coalition is still depends on a lot of factors. And I think, we have to be mindful of the recent history of Nigeria in talking about the coalition. I believe that the 2023 election broke certain principles that we've always known in politics, which you also, as somebody who has experience in these things, we've always known. First is the principle of party supremacy. Okay, the idea that once, no matter the disagreement that you have with anyone, they would eventually work with the party. That even if they are aggrieved, even if they are displeased with certain things going on, that they would eventually work for the party. That did not happen in 2023. PDP had about 11 to 13 states going into that election. Atiku Abubakar won only 5 PDP states.
Oh, wow.
A lot of for you, we all know the G5.
Yeah.
They worked against it.
5 governors that worked wicked.
5 governors, yes. Some of them at the expense of senators produced on the platform of their own party. Whom they had supported at the expense of House of Rep members. They worked against their own party. They worked against their own candidates. They worked for another party. So that has broken the principle of party supremacy right now. What we have now going into the coalition, I'm trying to make sense of the coalition now.
No, take your time. Yeah.
What we have going into the coalition is now a situation where party lines do not really matter. I think in 2027, party lines will not really matter. People are going to align however they feel. And we've seen that trend continue also after Tinubu's emergence. Tinubu has continued to poach endorsements from what is supposed to be an opposition party. You have key opposition members. I mean, you have the internal contradiction of someone like Nyesom Wike, a high-profile member of the PDP, serving as the Minister of FCT, as the high-ranking member of the Tinubu cabinet. And, you still see him hobnobbing in meetings of PDP. And you wonder what kind of opposition party is PDP exactly. So this dissolution is what has necessitated coalition. But right now, in our minds, or in the minds of most of us, it's you are either with Bola Tinubu or you are against Bola Tinubu. And those who are with Bola Tinubu are not necessarily those in APC. or only or limited to people who are in APC as I trace. You have PDP members who are in support of Bola Tinubu. You have the Labour Party members. You have party members from across the polity who are in support of Bola Tinubu. So those of us who are opposed to Bola Tinubu also have to find a platform where we aggregate. There has to be that platform. There has to be that unity. There has to be that coalition. So that is what justifies the coalition in eyes. And that is why I think that the coalition will continue to expand. And I think that, the biggest strength of the coalition might actually be the hidden supporters of the coalition.
Well, interesting. So is ADC the final party?
No, I cannot.
You will not say that. Okay, don't worry. Let's go to other questions.
It will be unveiled.
Oh, yeah. So, in your opinion, I mean, I've heard Osita Chidoka say PDP is dead. He resigned from the party. A couple of people have done that. What's your analysis on PDP? What phrase will you use? What sentence will you use? What word will you use? Do you think PDP is dead or on the verge of, or a miracle could still happen to revive it? What's your diagnosis of the situation with the PDP today?
I would say that we are singing the funeral song for PDP at this point.
Wow.
Nationally, we are singing the funeral song for PDP at this point.
Wow.
I do not think that PDP has the capacity to win elections at the federal level. I think PDP will continue to be relevant in certain states where there are structures. And again, this is what makes the coalition beautiful. In certain states, we will continue to deploy for the PDP in certain gubernatorial elections, in certain senatorial elections, for people who we believe are clear-headed enough to be anti-Bola Tinubu. We continue to align with these people. Like I said, the coalition is not going to be an exact. Right now, there's no strict party lines anymore. So if there's someone in PDP who we can work with, we'll work with that person and we'll support that person. But when it comes to being a national platform, I do not think that PDP has what it takes to win national elections anymore. Because like I said, Atiku won more APC states than PDP states. And this was basically because, these guys they've been unable to show the discipline, the party discipline that is required of any opposition force. So it's for me, the PDP is, if it's not dead, it's on its way to dying, as far as the national level is concerned. Because look, the problem goes beyond because a lot of people have said to me that, why can't Atiku take over the structures of the party and then make sure that we can itself? Two things. Number one, you are battling with a ruling party that is determined to kill all other parties in Nigeria. Absolutely. And turn Nigeria into a one-party state. Number two, you are fighting with people whose aim is to continue to have fights within the party. So how exactly do you fight people whose aim is to continue to keep fighting? It's to destroy. I mean, these guys just want PDP to be in this perpetual state of hot matter. I mean, look at the issue of national secretary, for example. It has become embarrassing. PDP over the last few months has had up to three national secretaries, and it is a straightforward positional issue. The man who is there, Senator Samayan, went to go and contest the Imo gubernatorial election, which was a problem on its own because we had produced the governor in Imo before the Supreme Court kicked him out. Emeka Ihedioha, right? Honorable Emeka Ihedioha. What should have happened in that situation? What should have happened in that situation was that everybody should have, stepped back and allowed the Ihedioha to contest again. Since he had won the elections before, he had been sworn in as governor. Senator Samayan insisted, even while he was national secretary, he said he wanted to be the candidate of the party. Ihedioha left the ticket for him, eventually left the party. Samayan went to become the gubernatorial candidate. The constitutional procedure is that he should have resigned before that time. This man came back and decided that he wants to come and continue being national secretary, which is totally against the norm within the PDP. This is despite the fact that the Southeast Caucus had already picked their member. They had already picked somebody else, right, Honorable Ude Okoye, to be the national secretary. Straightforward issue. You resigned to go and contest for governor. Don't bother coming back. You came back and said you want to be national secretary again. You don't have that mandate anymore. He insisted, and that is where the crisis continues today. So these are little things, but they are indicative that there is a caucus, there is a group working for the APC and ready to keep the PDP in a state of perpetual turmoil. And the danger ahead in that is this. We are already seeing signals that people who will measure the platform of PDP may in future be disqualified over the technicality of who is the national secretary. So you have various categories of people. So you have Right Honorable Dio Okoye claiming that he's the secretary, you have Senator Samuel Ayamu claiming that he's the secretary, and then you have the deputy national secretary who was asked to step in, Setonji Koshedo, who was asked to step in. That both of them should step, the two of them, both Ayamu and Dio Okoye should step aside. Setonji, you take over. Again, Ayamu is still there claiming that he is the one. So the question then is, who will sign your forms or who will sign your nomination letter to INEC as the national secretary of the party? That could create a problem in future. So all these are things that are designed to kill the PDP, and I think
Oh, wow.
I think PDP
That's
is
really technical. Yeah. So let me ask you this. Yeah, I mean, you know PDP very well, and I've seen you with the top people in PDP from Lamido and all that. The current problem, PDP came to power in 1999, Obasanjo 8 years, Yar'Adua 2 years, Jonathan completed it, Jonathan had it. Where can you, from your point of view, where can you pinpoint that what is the origin of this problem? Where exactly did it start from?
I think it's clear. Goodluck Jonathan's decision to contest in 2011 and in 2015, that's where PDP started to get it wrong. We can as well go further and say that, Obasanjo's ambition for third term in 2007 broke what was supposed to be a straightforward transition, because Obasanjo himself had groomed Atiku to be vice president. In fact, there's something that happened between Obasanjo and Atiku when, at some point, and this was confirmed, by people who were there, that Obasanjo asked Atiku, that what is your ambition after we are done with our 8 years, and after I'm done with my 8 years, and you are done as vice president, what next? And Atiku said, that his future is open. He could go back to being governor of Adamawa and so on. And Obasanjo got really furious with him and said, when he left Nigerian Airways in 1979, that there were 7 aircraft there. He came back, he didn't meet any aircraft, he met the country in shambles because he did not have a successor. That's so Atiku should be ready, that they are running on the same agenda. Atiku should be ready to take over from him. This was in the first term. And, eventually he did not hand over to Atiku. And because, that succession plan was distorted, he was very upset with Atiku because Atiku came out openly to mobilize against the third term. He was so displeased with him, he had to hurriedly choose somebody else. Now, the other person he chose was Umaru Musa Yar'Adua. Umaru Musa Yar'Adua did not belong to the capitalist majority of the PDP. He was more of a socialist, and that was why the first thing that he did was that he reversed the sales of the refineries, which is still a problem till today. You still have the Warri refinery. The Okem is working today, is working tomorrow. They're only mixing petrol for Nigerians. They are not producing petrol for Nigerians, gulping a lot of money. Obasanjo had sold it. Obasanjo had privatized those refineries before he left power. Yar'Adua came in, he reversed
even the NIPP projects.
Even the NIPP project, Yar'Adua came in and, felt, let's do this thing because, his own ideology leans to more towards the socialist ideology. So that distortion of the succession plan in 2007, I think it was a problem. But PDP was still able to continue because PDP had this idea, this rotational presidency idea. And as long as that rotation was going on, Nigerians were happy to keep PDP in power, knowing that one day power will get to us. But 2011 came, and even if you could argue that 2011, it was, the argument that the likes of Sule Lamido sold in the north was that, look, let's accept it as the will of Allah that Umaru Musa Yar'Adua died. This guy is there now. Goodluck Jonathan is there. Let's accept it as the will of Allah and allow him to do one term. That he's just going to serve one term of his own, and then he'll be done with the presidency. And people bought into that argument, especially in the north. Remember the palaces of the emir of Kano, Sule Lamido's office in Kano was burned. You had attacks in Bauchi, the emir of Zaza, the emir of Zaria. All these emirs were attacked because people felt the people of the north felt that they were supporting Goodluck Jonathan against Muhammadu Buhari. That was in 2011.
Hmm.
2015, when it was expected that Goodluck Jonathan should hand over, he decided he was going to go for a second term, which was well within his right, and some of us supported him because it was well within his right. However, it distorted the zoning balancing,
The calculation and the
the
agreement.
calculation within the PDP and the agreement. It distorted it entirely. And from an insider perspective, he didn't go about it in a way where he was carrying people in the north along. Again, from Sule Lamido, the people who came to inform Sule Lamido that Goodluck Jonathan was going to run for a second term were Ifeanyi Uba, the late Ifeanyi Uba, who was running transformation agenda
Yeah.
at that time, transformation agenda of transformation ambassadors of Nigeria,
Yeah.
and I've forgotten this other man now from the southeast, and one woman that they were the ones who came to meet him and said they came to solicit his support for Goodluck Jonathan, and he said, "Who are you to seek support of my own party man? Why is my own party man, who is the president, not coming to inform me directly?" So
it's just a phone call.
Not that anymore. Yeah, I mean, it could just have been a phone call. It could, but he knew that he didn't have the political gravitas. That he was reaching a political agreement, which they had all agreed to in 2011. So I think in particular that 2015 was.
Okay, let's talk about.
And a lot of
go ahead.
Of Jonathan himself. A lot of people about the personality of Jonathan himself.
Yeah, I know.
He took over. He was trying to take over the party, but he could not, hold on to it. And
they didn't have the will. Yeah. I understand. Yes, but having said all that, let's talk about your principal now, Atiku Abubakar, His Excellency. Now, that I'm going to look at three scenarios. The first one was when the story I know that he went against Obasanjo for whatever, whether he knelt down, that's one. The second one was this Jonathan we talked about now. It was widely reported that when Atiku was going to leave the PDP with Amechi and co, that Jonathan had a meeting with him and begged him to stay, that when I'm leaving, when I complete my time, I'll hand over to you. You understand? So let me forget the third one. Let's deal with those two. Do you think, with benefit of hindsight, that if Atiku, for example, had played ball with Obasanjo, wouldn't he have been president now? Or if he had had that gentleman's agreement with Jonathan, allowed Jonathan to do a second term, and Atiku could have served 2 terms too by now, because he's not getting any younger. So do you think, with benefit of hindsight now, do you think he could have handled those two scenarios differently?
I think, like I believe very strongly that, you play with the hands you are dealt with in life. And one of those hands is your temperament about things and how you feel about things. I think he's somebody who doesn't like to hide how he feels about things. If he believes something, he believes in it. One of the most, one striking instance I had with him, when he came to Lagos and we had a campaign event at law school, at the law dinner, the MBA program, the MBA conference. He was this dear presidential candidate, and he mentioned at the MBA conference that he was going to give 5 federal universities, he was going to give them back to the states. Okay, that he would let the states take over federal universities. If he didn't want them, the federal government was going to stop funding those federal universities. And I looked at my phone. I was SAD intermediate strategy then. I looked at my phone and I saw that this thing was already making news everywhere. It was going to be a problem. People were already talking about that. They were already focusing on what he was saying. Every other thing he said, the press was already going on about it. So we were going into the next meeting, and I thought, okay, we're going to see a friend of his. And I thought, yeah, we have time. I'll discuss this with him maybe in a day's time or 2 days' time. That, okay, can we avoid this issue? But when we got to his friend's house, the media was already there. There was somebody there from the media, a prominent media person there to interview him. A setup had been done. We didn't know about it, but his friend had used that leverage to try and arrange it, and Atiku, of course, agreed to speak to the media. So I felt, for him not to repeat this thing in a program that will be televised later, let me talk to him about it now. So I went to him and I said, sir, this issue of federal university is already causing controversy. Can we not mention it anymore? And he pushed back immediately. That, Demola, does it happen anywhere that we're in the world, in a presidential system or in a federalist government, does the federal government fund universities? Where, even in America, where we copy our democracy from, the federal government does not directly own those universities.
Absolutely.
You know, we're about to get into that thing, and then, somebody in the room who was older than me, just said, Oga, remember in 2019, this was how they started saying that we want to sell an NNPC. And they
Mm.
made that the campaign point, that let's not make this a campaign point,
Mm.
and that was when he succumbed to it.
Mm.
But he was ready to start engaging me and debating that issue with me. My point there is this: he's somebody who, once he believes in something, it's difficult for him to keep quiet about it. It's difficult for him not to, make noise about it. So I say all that to come back to the Obasanjo thing. Yes, maybe if he had been quiet with the Obasanjo third-term agenda, and I think that, Atiku was pivotal in that moment of history, because the truth is, everybody who had been sitting against third-term agenda, they were all there. Not until the particular night when Atiku Abubakar went to the meeting in Jos, where you had the likes of Tinubu, you had the likes of Oshoba, you had the likes of Akonde, and all the rest of them. He appeared in the night. It was around 9 p.m. He was broadcast on channel television that night. He walked into that meeting. That was when everybody knew, yes, we can stop this third-term agenda. Because those who were shouting at that time had been people who had been opposition all along. And Obasanjo never, gave a damn about the opposition. It was like, they were like mosquito bites for him. It wasn't impactful. It was when Atiku brought out his head and said, I am standing against this third-term agenda. That is when people began to believe, yes, we can resist this thing, and that is when people resisted it. So Atiku was the biggest force against third-term agenda, and he was the one who helped to halt that agenda. So if he had supported it, Obasanjo would have won a third term. If Obasanjo had got a third term, we don't know what would have happened between them. So that falling out, that whole, he and Obasanjo almost fell out. Even the instance of 2003, Obasanjo himself was flirting with the idea of dropping Atiku Abubakar. I remember very well that the first posters that came out in 2002, the first posters that came out, the first groups that came out, they were all Obasanjo Solidarity Movement, Obasanjo Followers Association of Nigeria, Obasanjo for second term. It was not Obasanjo Atiku, because Obasanjo was toying with the idea of picking another northerner as a running mate. He was thinking of picking Rimi, he was thinking of picking Kwakwanso, he was thinking of picking somebody else, instead of Atiku Abubakar. He was looking at the Northwest. Let me pick someone from the Northwest. That was why they did not fly Atiku's name with those initially. It was when Atiku started to kick back against it. That was when Tunji Osini came out, who was then the spokesperson, came out and said, oh, it was going to be a joint ticket. But of course, nobody could trust that. In politics, you have to show your value. And so Atiku had to show his value in 2003, 2007. In the 2015 race, no such meeting happened. No such meeting. You remember, when Atiku left the party, it was 2 years before the election at all. He left over the crisis of the chairmanship. It was the chairmanship, because everybody went to the convention expecting that there would be free and fair election. Goodluck Jonathan was supporting a candidate, Bamanga Tuko. Atiku and Co were supporting Abubakar Bugaji. Usman Bugaji. They were supporting Usman Bugaji to become the chairman of the party. To become the chairman of the party. Everybody knew that the Atiku forces were going to win that chairmanship. All of a sudden, Goodluck Jonathan used presidential powers to change the game. They started saying this person was disqualified. And the blatant daylight robbery angered them so much, and they said, you know what, we can't be part of this thing anymore. Goodluck Jonathan then had opportunity of negotiating with them, even during the days of NPDP. But certain people kept telling him, oh, the North doesn't matter, the North doesn't matter. Even when Rotimi Amechi was part of those people, they kept saying that, that they could not talk to them. He did not have any conversation with Atiku Abubakar from that time. The next time that they had the conversation was about a few weeks to the election. In fact, less than 2 weeks to the election. I don't want to go into certain things about that, but I will say that shortly around that period, a lot of Atiku groups came out to endorse, and anybody can Google this, anybody watching this can Google this. A lot of Atiku groups came out to endorse Goodluck Jonathan's 2015 ambition. But I'm not saying one thing either way. But I know that following that meeting, certain movements happened within the polity. So, and today, Goodluck Jonathan is not a stranger to Atiku Abubakar. The same thing with His Excellency President Olusegun Obasanjo. I think they are all on good terms with Atiku Abubakar. And
Yeah,
I think,
I noticed
that
that
politics
Baba
for
and
you.
Atiku, they get along more now. Yeah, I'm sure in Baba's
Yeah.
heart of heart too, you will feel that you should have. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm sure in his heart of
That
heart.
would have been his best. That would have been his best. That would have been his success story because it
Mm,
would have been a single ideology government. Everything
mm,
they are built together,
mm-hmm,
and people would have consolidated on it. This
mm-hmm.
electricity thing we are talking about, because these guys don't know what to do with
Because he was in charge of
electricity.
the privatization and all the processes.
Without the
Yeah.
privatization, some of these laws were written, from under his office. Some of the laws, the NEC to set up the National Electricity Regulatory Commission and so
Mm.
on, that these guys don't have a clue what they should be doing right now. And that's why, I personally still believe that if we can get back to that original plan of 1999 to 2007, a lot of our problems can be fixed very, very quickly.
Interesting. Yeah. So is Atiku still going to run for president? Because by my calculation, by 2027, he should be about 80 years old, correct?
Oh, well, I think that's for those of us, that's his biological age. As
Yeah,
far as
man.
I'm
Yeah,
concerned,
he
I think
looks
he's
healthy. There's no
mentally
doubt
sharp.
about that. He looks very,
He's
very,
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 very healthy,
yeah,
mentally sharp, sharper than
very
many of
sharp.
those
Yeah.
who will be contesting. I
I mean,
mean, yes.
so is he going to run for president?
I believe so.
You believe
I
so?
believe so.
All right.
Yes.
Because I'm
I
sure
strongly believe
just
that he
like
will.
me, just like you heard people say it's an old man, he should step down, that it's a Southern thing, that there's a gentleman's agreement that power is now in the South, that the coalition should probably push a Peter Obi and Atiku should support maybe Kwankwaso as vice president, Nasir Rufai, what's this guy from Sokoto, the former speaker? I've forgotten his name.
Tambuwal, Senator Aminu Tambuwal.
Senator Tambuwal. So names have been coming up, yeah. But having said that, I mean, if he runs, I mean, it's clear he's going to because it's. I mean, the law is entitled to his right to do it. You understand? I've heard people in PDP say, well, if Atiku runs, then the party is dead. They won't support him and all that. Now, my question really is, where exactly is Atiku's political support base? Now, I'm talking individually now. The OB people say, oh, obedient, the obedient people. So, you know Atiku very well. You've sat with him on intellectual discussion. You've worked with him personally. Where is the support structure? Which is catchment area? I know it's pan-Nigerian. You can see it's all around, but where exactly? And I'm removing PDP now and its political past. Now it's clearly going to leave PDP. Whatever is going to
I mean,
run,
for me, PDP has been out of the equation
game for a
because,
long time. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like I pointed out,
Mm-hmm.
you have 13 PDP states. Okay,
Mm.
Atiku Abubakar won only 5. He won more APC states than PDP states. He won 12 states. He won 7 were APC states that he won. That shows you that his strength is not. It wasn't even about PDP. It wasn't even about PDP. The states we can say maybe he won out of the PDP will be Osun State. In Delta we lost, but in Yobe we won. We lost River State, but we won we won Katsina. So these are APC states and we still won them. And that is Atiku Abubakar's strength. Atiku Abubakar's strength is the reliability that a lot of the political people have in him. They have a lot of trust in him. They see him as a trusted hand. They see him as a trusted friend. I think that's his biggest strength politically. The fact that he has a lot of people that he can reach out to. There is no state in Nigeria today where Atiku Abubakar will not be able to call on 10 people who are his very strong men. I mean, I experienced it during the Lagos PDP, what's it called, the convention where I participated as a candidate.
Okay.
We lost to the people that Atiku supported. Nobody knew Atiku was supporting them until the last minute. It was eventually that I discovered that it was the Atiku camp that was supporting them. And I said, what? I went to my people. How can you be the ones that would work it? And they said, that's we're using style to tell you that you should go and join this other camp. Don't join this camp.
You didn't listen.
They were telling me that I should go to this camp and collect youth leader in this camp. But I said, no, I've already told people that I'm coming out for publicity secretary. So let me stick my publicity secretary in this camp. They said, okay, that they were just looking at me. Now I've lost. Sorry.
Yeah. Still a technocrat in politics.
So that's when I discovered that Atiku, and that is the secret. If you do PDP primaries 10 times, Atiku Abubakar will win 9 times, and the 10th one will be a draw. It is that no winner emerged. 9 out of 10 times he will win the PDP primaries. Look, in 2019, I was supporting Sule Lamido then. Immediately they announced that when Wike, they said it was the convention was going to hold in Abuja. Wike said no, that they should come and hold the convention in Rivers. And that's when the party should have known that this guy is a very troublesome rascal, that they can't afford to trust him. He held the entire party to ransom and forced the party to come and hold the convention in Port Harcourt because he wanted to impose Tambuwal on the party. Tambuwal was the chairman of the Governors Forum at that time. Within hours of that primary being shifted to Rivers State, Atiku Abubakar's men, the foot soldiers in Rivers State, are taking all the presidential suites of the major hotels in Rivers State within 48 hours. UK had to threaten all of them that if you don't want to lose your C or O, go and return the money, go and return it and open presidential suites. That what do you mean? Governors are going to come. No governor would have been able to see any hotel, any presidential suite to sleep in. Even despite that, eventually, Atiku Abubakar, nobody could see more than half of the delegates. Presidential candidates, I was with Sule Lamido. Presidential candidates usually go around, you are going to see all the delegates in various hotels. More than half of the state delegates, people could not see them. Nobody knew what hotel they were in. Nobody knew where they were sleeping. Nobody knew where they were eating. On the morning of the convention, people just saw them. Where did Atiku Abubakar put them? I don't want to disclose that, but some people think that they.
Oh, well, I mean, so if I want to talk about Tinubu, but before that, let's go back to 2023 election. I mean, Obi had 6 million something, Atiku had 6 million something, Tinubu had 8 point something million. I don't have the specifics right now. Now, the Labour Party, they say it all the time that they won the election.
Yes.
Atiku was in court also to say he won the election. Do you think Atiku won that election in 2023? Did you hear what I said, or you want me to say it again?
I honestly think that people won. Because I look at the numbers, I've looked at the numbers, Yes, say it again.
I said
I got a bit of it.
2023 election. Obi had 6 million something. I'm not sure of the specific. He came third. Atiku had 6 million plus 2, a little more than Obi. He came second. Tinubu had 8 million, a little over 8 million thereabout. Now, the obedience I've said clearly, I've interviewed a few of them, Aki Oshitoku, Oseloka Obaze, even Aisha Yusufu, they've all been here, even Valentine Zigbo that they came recently, they were all emphatic, and even Dr. Mo, they all said Peter Obi won the election. So I'm asking you now as an Atiku man, and I've heard people like Dino and others say that Atiku won the election.
I don't know. This is cracking.
So did Atiku win 2003 election by your own?
I can't hear you clearly. Yes, I believe Atiku won that election. I've looked at the numbers, with some of the most controversial states, with some of the most controversial local governments, places like Kachia local governments, where, they will tell you that there was a Christian voters in the north turned up for Peter Obi. But Kachia local government is the local government in southern Kaduna. People swept that local government. The local government decided, they awarded it. You could tell there were just traces of manipulation, which of course, I wasn't there, I wasn't everywhere. So on election day, but you could see, the visible manipulations. You look at certain local governments and say that these numbers don't look all right. But having said that, we learn from what happened. And I think, like you have pointed out, many Nigerians who are looking at the numbers. Atiku Abubakar had 5.98 million, almost 6 million. His Excellency Peter Obi had 5.1 million. And Bola Tinubu got about 37%, about 8 million of the votes. If they had been together, there is no way that the APC would have continued in power. That's what many people, and that's why this coalition is exciting. On who will run, I think we are put. A lot of people like to put the cart before the horse. The first thing that every political leader has to agree is that it's not about their aspiration. It's not about their ambition right now. It is about let us first come together. Let's first agree in principle
Mm.
that there should be an opposition coalition away from the PDP structure, away from the Labour Party structure, away from all these parties that are already infiltrated by Tinubu men. Let's have a pure opposition coalition or as pure as possible. Let's have it. Forget ambition for now. So whatever permutations will come out eventually, I believe that those leaders will agree. Ours is to look at it and say we trust these people, or we agree that removing APC in itself is a key benefit to Nigerians.
Mm.
Allowing APC to continue to run. And I made this point in 2023 that look, there is no way that a Bola Tinubu will not be worse than a Muhammadu Buhari. And if the logic is simple, because if you are willing, and I use the Rehoboam principle from the Bible that, the children of Israel came to meet Rehoboam and said, are you going to be fair to us? And he looked at them and said, I'm going to be worse than my father. Why? Because he saw them tolerate the pains of Solomon, and he felt if you can take that, then you can take more. Whoever you are elected on the platform of APC, that person would have inflicted more hardship on Nigeria because the person will fear that you have not yet reached your limit. And I'm saying again now that if Bola Tinubu wins the second term, the pain is going to be unbearable for most Nigerians. We have to agree that removing APC in itself is an end. It is a worthy goal. Remove it for anybody at all. The message will clearly be sent that you cannot treat Nigerians with levity. You cannot put Nigeria in this kind of mess and hope to be rewarded with the second term. So I think, on the political level, the leaders will discuss, and whatever concessions are made, we would know those concessions eventually. But I think that Nigerians have to agree, as I have resolved, that APC simply has to go by any means possible, by any constitutional democratic means possible. APC just has to go out of power for the good of Nigeria. That in itself is good for Nigeria.
Mm. Irrespective of where the next president comes from.
And I think people should be very honest with themselves. Okay? In this economy, if an Igbo man gives you as a Yoruba man 1 million naira, you will be happy and you will say thank you. You will do Thanksgiving in church, or you will do Thanksgiving in your mosque, or you will do Thanksgiving wherever you believe in. If a Fulani man gives you 1 million naira, you will. So why must good governance only come from your ethnicity? I think people are not really being honest with themselves. And like somebody said, maybe the pain is not yet enough. That's why people they are still thinking ethnically. Because if you are given money, you won't care whether the money comes from a Fulani man or whether it comes from an Igbo man or it comes from a Yoruba man. If Bola Tinubu was performing well, both of us would be on his bandwagon. We would have gone to queue. I'm sure I would have come to drag you from Atlanta and say, no, let us find our way. This guy is doing well.
Oh God.
Because but because he's not doing well, that's why we as the Yoruba men are not on the bandwagon for him. So it doesn't matter. Anybody who can perform, and I am very convinced that anybody outside APC will perform 1,000,000 times better than Bola Tinubu is performing, regardless of where the person comes from. So I'm personally not invested in this northern-southern argument. I think a lot of it is manufactured.
Yeah, but based on the APC calculation now, the way I see it, they're almost going to play a North versus South thing now. That's what it's trying to do. It looks like they're trying to whip up sentiment that these Northerners and all that, they don't want Tinubu to have a second term. Why is Atiku still running? Buhari did 8 years and he didn't perform well. Nobody rocked the boat. We allow him do it. Let Tinubu not perform well and do it 8 years and go. That's looking like what it's going to be like. Do you think that's good for Nigerian politics, North South, and not looking at merit?
I don't think it's good for Nigerian politics. And I think PDP is a very, very confused party to allow itself to become entrenched in such nonsensical talk. Was APC concerned about South or not when they presented Buhari to face Goodluck Jonathan for second time? Why did APC not go to South to go and bring somebody? An opposition party, a party out of power.
That's a good argument. That's a wonderful argument.
Discussing zoning. You're not in power, you're trying to zone to where the party in power is zoning to. I think, it's not a very, but APC is definitely trying to do it. But what APC has forgotten is that when you talk about the North, there is a North because right from the time of Usman Danfodio, where he conquered the northern groups, conquered all of them
Mm.
and made them into one ethnic group, bonded them under the the Hausa Fulani Empire, at that time,
Hegemony.
one religion, that hegemony had always been there. Okay, most of the north, you understand Hausa. No matter
Mm.
what tribe you come from, you understand Hausa. Even the Fulani, they understand Hausa.
Mm.
There's that cohesion. Most
Mm.
of them understand. I mean, most northern children, even if you are Christian, they know how to say the Al Fatiha, for example. They know how to
Mm.
recite chapters of the Quran. There's that homogeneity there. The South is different. An Igbo man is as different from a Yoruba man as a Northerner is different from a Yoruba man.
Mm.
Okay? You don't have a South in the sense that you have a North.
Mm.
What you have is the Southwest, the South-South, and the Southeast. And that's how it has been since the Second Republic. In the Second Republic, this was even after the time of Amadou Bello. Amadou Bello also came in. He was a grandson, or a grandnephew of Usman Danfodio. He came in and he also forged the North. He gave the North the motto, one North, one destiny. Okay? He formed the Northern People's Congress. He made sure that the North continued to be one, right? By the time it came to the Second Republic, when they asked the North that, do you want to split? The North said no. Just give us one position in the MPN. Just give us one position. They asked the South, do you want to split? South split into three. Give us three positions. And that was how you ended up having Shehu Shagari as the president. You had Meredith Akinloye as the chairman of the party. You had Joseph Wyatt as the Senate president. And you had, from the South, Atiku as the vice president. The South got three positions, the North got one position. The North has always tried to remain one. The South has always been broken down into three. And rightly so, because there are linguistic differences, there are cultural differences, there are historical differences between the ethnic groups of the South. So this idea of South is a manufactured one. Politically, Bola Tinubu and Co did not care about Southern agenda when they wanted to work against Goodluck Jonathan. They shouldn't use South to deceive anybody now. Secondly, historically, linguistically, culturally, there has never been a South. You've always had the South-South, which is a mishmash of several ethnicities, including the Ijaws, the Shekiris, the Urhobos. And then you have the Yorubas, and then you have the Igbos. There are three distinct Souths. Okay, so Tinubu's presidency is not of great benefit to the Southeast, for example. And we see it in the appointment, Even with the Southwest, Tinubu is not spreading the appointments all around. He's restricted to most of his boys, people who have worked with him in other states and the Lagos boys. If the South was benefiting as much, then maybe we could say, okay, they are part of this, they are part of the South. If the Southeast was, we'll say, okay, they are part of it, but they are not being considered. So I think that argument is going to be exposed. I think that more Nigerians are going to look at it because the most important thing is actually his performance. Like I said, I'm a Yoruba person. If Bola Tinubu was performing, maybe I would be tempted to go and swear loyalty. But you are not performing. It is what our fathers will call adodutile because people we expected that he would be better at least than Muhammadu Buhari. And I think that he is smart enough to be better than Muhammadu Buhari, but that Bola Tinubu is being deliberately wicked to Nigerians. He is being deliberately selfish for himself. I think that he can fix a lot of things if he wants to fix them, but he has decided to test the pain levels of Nigeria, and that's just unfortunate.
So you think he knows what to do, but it's just intentionally holding back?
I mean, Bola Tinubu did not need to use fuel subsidy on day one. He could have studied the situation. He could have ensured that the market was deregulated enough so that people can bring in petroleum at different prices. Over there in the US, you buy petroleum, you buy your gas, you buy different grades of gas. You don't buy if you are going to buy gas into your old vehicle, you don't buy the same as somebody who's using an SUV, a brand new SUV.
Yeah, there are different grades of
gas,
different grades. That's true.
And different grades. Why does a person who is using a better pass my neighbor generator need to buy the same quality of fuel at the same price as somebody who is using SUV 2025? Why does an Okada man, a Keke Marwa, need to buy the same quality of petrol as somebody who is using a Mercedes Benz 2025? Because they have not deregulated the market and restricted NMPC to its role. So Tinubu knows this, that fuel subsidy removal was not a standalone policy. If you remember, it was a part of a series of proposals within the deregulation of the downstream sector. When that market is deregulated, people will be able to import fuel. I can
Yeah.
come to US and get
And
fuel
some
for cheaper.
refineries too will be working.
NNPC needs to do.
Mm.
Refineries will be working. People will be scrambling to buy refineries. People will be scrambling to bring in petroleum and say, look, my petroleum is not grade A petroleum, it's grade C for only Okada men. All NNPC and the regulators will be doing is making sure that they are selling at appropriate price. There will be different prices for these things. So for Tinubu to have done that, instead of deregulating the market, I think that man just wants to test the tolerance level of Nigerians, and Nigerians are, tolerating it, but Nigerians are really, really upset. So he didn't need to do that. And that's just one example. That's just one example. If you look at the forex market too, it goes up today, it comes back tomorrow, and then you know that it is men who are in charge, both as CBN governor and Minister of Finance. People see forex going down one day. It's not tied to any government policy. You just suddenly see that this thing is crashing. You know that some people somewhere are manipulating it. And I say again to people, if Emefiele under Muhammadu Buhari could perpetrate such fraud, then you can wonder what is going on with Bola Tinubu and his men right now. I won't say more than that.
Okay, let's talk about elections now. Free and fair election. The Tinubu seems, even from what you've said, he's just testing the people. He's intentionally not doing it. Trying to pick from what you said. Now, if he's doing that and in one second term, you understand, and the people are definitely not happy, at least from what I see, from what I hear, people are complaining, cost of this, cost of living. Now, can we ever have free and fair elections in Nigeria? Because in the past, I've always said this, our elections were free but not fair. Now they are not free, they are not fair. So how will the coalition going forward, how will they face this? Because the elections, for the coalition to win, for any opposition to be relevant in Nigeria, the election must be seen to be free, it must be free, it must be fair. So how do we do that? They need to make new laws. The people that will make the laws are pro-government. The government so far seem to be controlling the judiciary and the legislature. So what's the solution in that angle? Because it doesn't look like the election will be fair. Maybe I'm wrong.
To be honest, it's not it's not much to be optimistic about. I'm a part of the political class. I'm a part of the political movement, so to speak. Our hope, of course, our hope is that the coming together of the last two, the candidates who scored very high votes in the opposition, Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi, they are coming together will create such a wide margin that INEC will not be able to rig that margin on behalf of the president. That's our hope as politicians, because everybody fights with the tools that they have. What we expect is that those who are in civil society should also be rising to put pressure, especially in two areas. Number one, the judiciary, and number two, the electoral umpire itself. The judiciary needs to explain to us. A law was passed ahead of the 2023 election that, mandates INEC to set guidelines, use I-review beavers. Why did INEC not use it for the 2023 election? And why did the courts not rule that this is a salient part of it? So, whatever needs to be done in that regard, I don't think any law needs to be made. I only think that INEC needs to be held very closely to what the electoral law says. We should be able to see the result of the election in real time. Okay, there shouldn't be any manipulations. We should be able to see the results. I should be able to go online a day after election, or while the election is going, as the results are uploaded in Katina, I should be able to know what the results of the Gobi local government.
It's not a big deal actually. It happened. India is over 1 billion people, and they do it for nothing.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah,
it's not a big deal. So INEC should be mandated to uphold that particular thing, and whatever needs to be done in that regard. But like I said, some of us are politicians. We understand the political method. I understand that there are a lot of people, there are a lot of revolutionaries now in Nigeria who are calling for other things, calling for different things, different means. I think that even those people should not be silenced, because certain people in power need to see certain things for their heads to be reset and understand that people are not happy with their government. I think that the most important thing is to say that 2027 we do not want Bola Tinubu in power anymore. The politicians are going to do everything they can do to make sure that that happens. Let's give ourselves a chance, okay? Let's come together. Let's not create any excuses. Let's come together as an opposition and let's
Mhm.
present one candidate, or at least one major candidate between the last two, and give ourselves that political chance. The people also of Nigeria must also play their own part. People must continually speak up and be willing to guard their votes and be willing to make it clear to INEC that you cannot rig this election. This is our life at stake, basically. But all voices must be encouraged, including the voices that are saying things that we don't want to hear as regards the change of power in Nigeria.
So if the people can defend their vote, no problem. I agree with you. I mean, the people should. So, one more, two more questions before we round up, and it has to do with Atiku again. Now, do you think the dream team is an Atiku Obi candidature? I mean, Atiku president, Obi VP. Do you think that's the winning model? I'm asking you because of your political
I'm
experience,
I'm I'm
exposure,
I'm I'm,
and we're
I'm
talking
biased.
tactically.
Yes, so I'm biased in that regard, but I'm also not. I can be objective enough to say that
Hmm.
I do not just assume that the
Obedient.
obedience will simply vote for Atiku simply because Obi is going to be his vice president. I
Very
don't think
running.
that's going to happen. I
Mm-hmm.
think people need to do a lot to endear himself to the obedience. And I
Mm-hmm.
also think it's important to distinguish that there are a lot of Obi voters, especially in the southeast. There are also people who voted for Obi out for ethnic reasons. The
Mm-hmm.
voters in the southeast, a lot of them,
Mm-hmm.
voted for them. They wouldn't call themselves mainstream obedient,
Mm.
right? You wouldn't call them mainstream obedient. The market women of the southeast, the artisans of the southeast, they voted for Obi because he represented to them, the opportunity for us to have an evil president, which I believe very strongly will happen in my lifetime, and I believe I'm going to be part of those that make that happen. So you have those voters, but then you also have the obedience who they want a new social order. Okay, they don't care about your PDP or APC. They want a new social order. They want a Nigeria of their dreams. They want a new Nigeria. I think that I think we are going to have a lot of work to do in selling that particular ticket. If that ticket, to make that ticket work, it's not an automatic ticket to
Mm.
vote in Nigeria. It's a ticket where Atiku Abubakar has to endear himself to the obedient base. It is a base that is young. It is a base that is, that feels so much is at stake in Nigeria. It is a base that is online and they see a lot of things that their mates are doing in other countries. They are frustrated with the way Nigeria is. They are going to have to woo those people. So I don't think it's a dream ticket, but it is not an automatic
Will
victory.
you?
It's not an
Will
automatic
you?
ticket to victory.
Yeah,
Ticket that
based on
we
your
have to work for.
proximity to Atiku Abubakar, especially on advices and all that, advisory level and all that, if if push comes to shove, for example, there's a coalition, they join a party, there's a party primary, and Atiku wins, and I will be surprised if he picks Obi as his running mate. Will you, for example, support Atiku saying, okay, because of age, because I want to endear myself to obedience, I will run for a single term. I'm already 80, so I'll run for one term and hand over. Um, for political experience and all that, do you think it's a commitment you should make or not?
I think I would say that no commitment is too big to be taken.
No commitment should be
I think
made.
I would say that no
Because when you
commitment is
taste
too big.
power, it's a completely different thing.
Yeah, no commitment is too big. No
Oh, okay.
commitment is too big to be
Too
made.
big. Oh, okay,
That
okay.
yes, it's too big to be made. That
Okay,
if any commitment needs to be made, if any party needs those commitments to be made, then those commitments to be made. They
absolutely.
should be made.
Okay. My final
And put the
question.
foot on the table.
All
All
right.
expense to put on the table. Yes.
My final question. If, for example, everybody coalesces under ADC, now I'm guessing now, right? Everybody coalesces under ADC. And of course, there will be party primaries. I believe that they want to have a presidential party primaries to ensure transparency and blah, blah, blah. If, for example, Peter Obi wins, do you think Atiku will support him wholeheartedly?
100%.
100%. Yeah,
100%.
I like that.
100%. 100%. Yes.
All right. Thank you, Demola, for your time. I know it's
And
very
all of us who support Atiku will also support him. Yes.
absolutely, absolutely. Who will you pick to be Obey's running mate if that
Yes.
happens? We're
Ah,
just
well,
talking
I mean,
now.
at that point, I wouldn't know what to say.
There's
I
Nasiru,
mean,
there's Malam
in
Nasiru,
my
there's
head,
Kwankwaso
in
if
my
he's
head,
still in.
I'm still thinking of the, I'm still thinking of the
Uh,
Atiku and Obi ticket. That's not
uh,
that dream ticket you mentioned
yeah.
is what is in my
I
head.
mean,
Yes.
a lot of people feel that in 2019, Atiku will be won the election. There are a lot of people that are, and I mean, against Buhari,
Oh yes.
and
Oh yes. Oh
yeah,
yes.
and there was really
Oh
no
yes.
reason for them not to work together again
Yes.
in 2023. So, Demola, thank you for your time. I wish you the very best always. Demola, his special assistant, digital media strategy to Atiku Abubakar in the last election and the one before that. And they're still together. He's in the know of what's happening. Very erudite, vibrant. Follow him on Twitter at Demola Olarewaju. I'm telling you, its handle is a go-to handle if you want to be abreast of what's happening. It's a sharp thinker, highly pragmatic, and the leader of the future. There's no doubt. It's somebody that in the future of Nigeria will look forward to the kind of leadership he offers. He's close to those that know, and he has advised them. There must be a reason why they listen to him, and some of it you heard already. So, Demola, thank you for your time always. I'm sure as things evolve, we're going to bring you back again.
Thanks so
I'm
much,
sure in the
Ebu.
next 1 month or
Thanks
two
for
or
having
three,
me.
there'll be a lot of
Yes, I'll
tsunami.
always be happy to come. And I should thank you also.
Uh,
I said, yeah, I'll be happy to be back. Yes, and I should thank you also. I should thank you also for not abandoning Nigeria. Even though
no, we
you're
can't.
abroad, you've always been a part of us. You've always been a part of the polity. You've always been together. I'm very, very happy that you have not abandoned the polity like a lot of. Your passion is still there. You still
Oh,
talk about
yes.
Nigeria. You're still doing this program.
Mm.
So I thank you very much for not letting your hopes for a greater Nigeria die, for keeping the
Thank
fire
you.
alive. Thank
Yeah,
you,
you're
Ebu.
welcome. It's hard to overlook Nigeria actually. I have Indian friends, I have African friends, and they're everybody like Nigerians are the best everywhere, at work, everywhere. As in, how can your country be the way it is when you guys are actually when I tell
Yes.
people I work with what I know at age 10, 14, 15, like wow, 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 Actually, the only people that can relate with us are the Indians, because of the kind of education, how much importance we attach to it and all that. But then I gave up
Mm.
hope really. My hope was rekindled some I'll say some months back. I do think there is light at the end of the tunnel. I don't have a blueprint for how how we'll get there, but I think that
Right,
nothing
right.
happens forever. As in it's really so
Yes,
bad that
yes,
it can't be worse than it is. Do you understand?
yes,
Except I
yes.
mean,
At some point, there's going to be a shift, and
yeah,
we have to be ready. Yes,
yeah, I
we have to
mean,
be ready.
the hunger level is so
Yes,
high, and I just have a feeling maybe the people themselves will decide one day enough is enough. You understand? And I think we're getting close to it. So, and to President Tinubu, I'm not against you. I don't think anybody is against you. Everybody
I
just
agree
wants a
with you.
better country. That's all. We can do better than we're doing. And that's just a statement of fact. You don't buy a jet or all those things when you're asking people to manage. It's just irresponsible,
Definitely,
that you don't have
definitely.
to be apologetic about that. It's not a way to go about it. So to our viewers, it's a wrap there. Don't worry, I promise you I'll bring Demola back again. Demola, thanks so much. All right, guys. See you next week. Bye.